You're listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft, the people who play it. Today is July 8th, 2024, and my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by my co-host, Jason Lucas. Jason, how are you doing this fine Monday?
Spencer, hello. Happy Monday to you. I am coming off of a nice long holiday weekend here in the States. I took Friday off. I spent a lot of time floating around in the pool and getting probably a little bit too much sun. So, trying to get my bearings, but, really had very little on the agenda for the weekend and just took a nice long soak and, just hung out with the kiddos and, it was nice, very low key. Getting back into the Monday routine is never fun though, especially when you have a nice long weekend like that. But, we got a bit of a slow news week for WoW, but we do have, SOD Phase 4 is happening in a couple days as we record this. It is this week. We got giant SOD maintenance tomorrow in NA. And other than that, we're kind of just all collectively holding our breath for that pre-patch date announcement.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like it could be not this week, but next week. It could be the week after that, but I think it's probably sooner rather than later. I wouldn't be surprised if they moved us into a pre-patch state a little early, but is what it is.
Yeah, I think it doesn't go. I can't imagine it goes beyond the 23rd in NA.
No, yeah, no.
Right,
no.
That seems like it's got to be by then.
Yeah.
Next week might be a little pie in the sky, but it'd be cool. It'd be welcomed. I mean, they got a lot of tech to fix up with this pre-patch, right, with warbands and all. So giving themselves a little extra time might be cool if they can swing it. But I can't imagine that they go less than a month with 11.0 pre-patch, considering how much back-end work is involved with it.
Well, yeah, and also just class change, right? You're going to feel a little different as far as your character goes. There's usually tuning that comes in with the pre-patch and often new systems that come in with pre-patch. And obviously, we're not going to have our talents change dramatically. We'll have some changes happen for some classes. There will be some changes, actually I'm actually wrong. There will be some dramatic changes for some specific specs that are going to have some pretty big overhauls, but we're not going to have the hero talent system suddenly kick in and you can start spending hero talent points because we won't be leveling yet. But you will actually have the system in, and I think you'll actually be able to see that hero talent tree and everything else inside of your talent tree when this goes live for pre-patch. So all of that should happen, I believe, when pre-patch lands, but we don't have the official blog yet, so we will talk about that more once we get it. I would think that this week on maybe Thursday, we'd see that blog come out with, hey, here's the release date, here's what to expect. Here's the deadlines, hopefully, on if you're trying to accomplish things before those achievements go away and become feats of strength before the end of the expansion. All that stuff would start kicking in and give us dates and everything like that. That's all what I'd want inside of that post. So hopefully that's coming soon, because this week we did get another storyline. We'll talk about that a little bit later on for a short story. But yeah, Phase 4, Season Discovery, that is this Thursday. This is the only Season Discovery chat we'll have for the episode, so just so everyone's aware of what's going on. Yeah, I've decided not to participate in Phase 4 of Season of Discovery. I did the first 3 phases, and I've just felt more and more like it was not targeted towards me, and more and more like they just were not listening to the requests I had to sort of help the friends and other people catch up, and I guess be able to jump in and experience the shenanigans that happen. And honestly, the biggest factor for me is just timing. This is just the worst possible time for someone like myself who is looking to dive into the next expansion of the live game or World of Warcraft. We're in the middle of summer. There's a lot going on. This is my crazy busy season where my workload goes up by 40% for a 4-month, 5-month period of time. I just don't have time to dedicate to Season Discovery. It's just not something I'm interested in throwing a whole bunch of effort at and then potentially not feeling like I'm getting a lot of reward out of it, or that the attendance of raid teams or anything like that is just dying off so much because everyone else is doing so many other things and everyone else's life is so busy. So I think at this point, yeah, I'm stepping away from Season Discovery for now, and we'll see what happens in the future. Maybe I come back mid-season. Maybe I come back for Phase 5. Who knows? maybe they'll get wise and add in like a rune catch up system and a bit more aggressive catch up for folks, and we'll see what happens. But I think for all those season discovery enjoyers who like that's your main game, I think you are going to have a really fun time inside Phase 4. It looks like they got a lot of stuff planned for you, and if that's your main thing, then I think you'll love diving into it. So enjoy.
Yeah, I have. I don't know. I kind of have said a couple times like, once the leveling is done, then maybe I'll get back in there and check it out, and maybe I will. I don't have anybody to play with anymore. The DJ ZTH crew that was kind of playing Phase 1 kind of immediately just split apart at the beginning of Phase 2, and that's kind of been that. But my character left off at like level 26, decked out from Phase 1. So I don't know, it might be kind of cool to go in and just level up and see, I don't know, the new outdoor events and the stuff that I missed in the new outdoor content and whatever. But I'm just in this weird holding pattern where like I'm in a mode where I really want to play WoW because it's like it's getting into that pre-expansion hype cycle, but there's really not a lot for me to actually do in WoW overall of other stuff that I've been playing. So I have a weekend or two here to like do some SOD stuff. Like maybe I would do that, but I probably won't because I think more of my focus is just getting all my ducks in a row for War Within. But it's just we're pretty sure that once pre-patch comes in, you're going to see a massive XP discount to level to 70, which is huge for me. I have a couple characters I still want to level and everything, and in a world where there's that big of a discount, if the data from the test realms goes live, like it's more than a 50% discount overall from like level 1 or level 10 to 70. It's absurd, and the biggest reduction is from 60 to 70. So I start thinking, I got all these other characters, allied races, and horde tunes, and maybe I just go, over the top with it. But, we're not in that mode yet. And so it's like, okay, do I slog through 10 levels on the priest or the warlock? Right now, I know what I'm getting into. I know about how long it's going to take. Or do I wait and try to condense it when I have, maybe less time and less enthusiasm to do the specific stuff? And that's kind of the tug of war that I'm doing with myself right now when it comes to that, pre-patch preparation and how I'm like spending my time thing.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a certain amount of what's on people's lists as far as what they want to accomplish before either Phase 4 season discovery starts or we move into the next phase of Cataclysm raiding, because I think there's still more of that's going to be unlocked, unless it's all unlocked already, but I think there's more of that happening soon too. And then we have the new expansion of obviously War Within coming out. So yeah, everyone has their list. Everyone's trying to get done what they want to get done. I think Season of Discovery is a great interim time fill, have a good time piece of content is the way that I sort of view it. I know there's people who are like, this is my jam and this is all I do. And that's great. I think that's very cool. I just wish that they were able to accommodate a little bit more folks who are like, hey, this is what I want to spend my weekend doing. It's going to be a really good time, as opposed to being like, hey, I'm going to spend my weekend leveling from level 29 or level 30 until level 55, and then I'm still not able to play with my friends yet. You're like, oh, okay, that's unfortunate.
Or I have no friends to play with.
Because your friends who are max level were waiting for you to level up, and you weren't able to do it in time, and so their whole raid team fell apart. And yeah, I wish that we got a little bit more catch up and momentum and ridiculousness thrown in with that season discovery. All right. Anyways, anything you want to talk about this past week in World of Warcraft that you got up to?
Oh my goodness. I was actually pretty busy this week. Yeah. I did have some time, as I mentioned. And so, once it wasn't pool time anymore and it was after bedtime, then it was WoW time. We ended up only doing one night of Dragonflight raids with the team, which wasn't a super surprise. We did, it was Aberrus week. We full cleared and did, I think we did Mythic 2 or 3. I think we did Mythic first 3, which, that's like sub 2 hours. That's a lot of bosses. It kind of dawned on me how fast we were plowing through there. But when we got to Echo of Neltharion, which is the next to last boss on the heroic clear, I'm like, we haven't even been at this an hour yet, and we're like done with the heroic ID. So, that was pretty fun. I mean, almost everybody is so just completely optimized and maxed out now. It's fun. It was very chill. Even the mythic bosses that we're familiar with just kind of fall over for the most part, really. I mean, Avernus also has a couple early mythic bosses that are sort of gimmies, but so that was cool. I ended up I just slammed like 8 keys into Tuesday and Wednesday, but I ended up just full pugging into some Algathar academies and stuff just to, round out the vault and whatever. Because the interest is just really waning. People are my crew is just sort of checked out. It's the expansion's over, everything's over now, right? So this might be the last week that I roll into Tuesday Reset with 3 dungeon choices. There's one belt that I'm looking for, basically, that would be a nice kind of side grade. And so I don't know. It's not feeling like a great use of my time anymore. It's fun, but if I'm not playing with people I like to play with, then how fun really is it after a while? I'm ready to drop off. Like if other people want to do it, I'm good to go. Like it's cool. I think the Mythic Plus season is pretty good, and it sure is fun going in there with a ton of optimized loadouts on people's tunes, and just everybody knows all the dungeons in and out because we've had 2 full seasons of them basically at this point, and just blasting away. But that just might not be where I'm spending my time anymore. Remix is also dropping off really hard for the team. Wednesday, I told everybody, all right, the plan is going to be remix raids. We'll do heroic tour, whatever. Please don't do the raids earlier in the day. Show up if you want to play with us, whatever. I had like 4 people show up total, including me.
And despite the fact that you probably could have cleared it with those 4 people.
Yeah, probably. But like it also just kind of doesn't make sense to do it that way. So I grabbed somebody else from Guild who's on a different team wanted to run, so we grabbed them, and then I just pugged spots, and it was fine. But it's time consuming for one thing, and you don't really know what you're getting. And you're trying to round out with the highest item level people you can find, and you got to get everybody kind of organized. But so we pugged all the way through. We ended up doing Mythic Siege that night, which was kind of, I didn't really mean to. It was kind of funny. In the group finder, it just defaults to Mythic, I think. So I started grabbing people and like, how many people are we going to do? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, like whatever. We can probably go like this. I'm like, oh, isn't this Mythic? And I was like, no. And then I looked at it, went, oh yeah, I did list a Mythic group. Okay, I guess I'm rounding out with as many 476 tunes as I can find.
Right.
Which was cool. I hadn't done Mythic before, so I got the title. You get a ton of bones. You get like 10 bones from killing Mythic Garrosh, so that was cool. And then like Thursday night, it was a holiday. It was kind of late in the day, and everything was done, and I'm sitting around going, I'm kind of bored. Like I could be up for some raids, so I ended up just doing another lap around, including another Mythic Siege. And then I ended up like I bought the mount vendor out. I'm done buying mounts. With all those bones, I got all the heirloom weapons from Garrosh, so that's all done.
Nice.
And
some
so
of those are really nice to have. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, they're cool, and they have sockets in them and stuff.
Yeah.
Which and that was like, I mean, that's the thing. Like once this is done, you're not gonna be able to go get those from a vendor or something, right? Like they were extremely rare drops from defeating Garrosh back when, and they haven't been available since. So it was cool kind of getting the whole collection of those. I'm done with the world gear, I think. Like I'm buying all the Mog now because it's like I got nothing left to buy, right? I got all the toys, I got all the mounts, I got all the stuff I really cared about. So now it's just filling up the bars in the UI, So I got the world clothing vendor done who sells like the stuff that's not armor type specific and the stuff that's like from quest rewards. That stuff is all done. I actually made an undead warrior, and I figured, okay, I got to make an undead because I got to get the mini mana bomb toy. Right, I just need to get 500 bronze. I'll get that toy because I can't buy the line side. Then I'm done with that. And I was like, well, I only have one undead on my account that's like decently high level, and she's Death Knight. I don't really love playing Death Knight, and I don't have the undead heritage armor yet. And I could see like how it feels to level up a second character, and then I could get a whole bunch of extra bronze, and then I could be done with buying all the mogs faster, and then I'll get the extra 40k bronze from getting the max level, and I can do all the LFRs to get all the, my brain just starts like going down the roller coaster. Yeah, so the undead warrior is like level 42 now or something, and I'm kind of just like logging in, doing whatever LFRs I can get into, and then doing the dailies and buying up mogs. So that's cool. It's just another round of that I can do. My goal is sort of to just get done with buying all the stuff off of all the bronze vendors, like well before this is done, and then probably just stop playing. I like Remix, and I think it's been kind of a fun ride, but when all of the content is completely trivial for so long, it's just not, it doesn't hold your interest. You just run around. I mean, on my dwarf, like the warrior that I've been playing from the beginning, you just run into a raid and you just thunderclap and everything dies, and you loot it and you move into the next room and you thunderclap and everything dies. Like it was funny the first 500 times, but I'm just done with it, and I kind of just want to buy the mogs to buy them and just say I did it all. So that's my little Remix project. I don't know what I'm going to do about raiding. Like we didn't raid last night. I asked people to sound off if they wanted to come and do Remix raids, and I got like 3 responses that were positive. I was like, let's not do this if it's just 4 of us, I just don't want to, I'm not feeling it. I'm a little tired after the weekend. I got to get back to my routine. So, we ended up not doing anything that was scheduled last night. And so I just, the nice thing was I got the warrior up to like, what was it, 35? And then at 35, it unlocks the Heart of Fear LFR, which then you get more bonus XP. And then I pretty quickly from there got to 40, so then I unlocked Terrorist of Endless Spring. And so then it's even more bonus XP. So it just, it really starts picking up momentum as you go. So I don't know. I have really weird mixed feelings about Remix, because I think it was fun on the way up and it was fun when you plateaued out at the top, and then I'm still like in a mode where I want to play it every day and just buy out all the stuff that you can get, but the gameplay kind of stops being fun after a while. Once you get to that upper echelon of power, it's like there's no actual gameplay here. Like I'm not playing World of Warcraft. Like I'm in the client and I'm moving around a character and I'm using like abilities and spells, but it doesn't resemble like actually playing the game in any way. So I don't know. I'm just looking forward to being done with it, honestly. And then the only other thing to mention, I think, is I even squeezed in a Friday morning Ahoon. No Firefest Drake armor for me, which was a bummer. So I think the new increased drop chance, once a day ramping chance thing stinks because it didn't work. And
hopefully
I didn't get it
over. Like hopefully next year you just start out at that higher chance. Like
that's the thing. It's got to work that way, right? Please, Blizzard, please do the right thing and just make it be a chance that accrues forever until the item drops. Don't have it reset at the beginning of every event. But the cool thing was it was like minimal investment, I think it is better this way. Like if I'm not going to get it, I don't want to have done it
140 times.
Like event. 8 times a day or whatever. Like, no, thanks. I did it once a day. I rolled the dice. I didn't get lucky. Hopefully, the streak protection stacks up. I got the new stuff right away when Firefest started. So, it was fine. I didn't really participate in it a lot this year. And like I think I mentioned last week, it really doesn't feel like the leveling bonanza that it used to be back when getting 10% extra XP for killing monsters was unheard of. But that was like the main thing, I guess, in retail after like Wednesday night was let me log in and do a Hoon and cross my fingers.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's hop into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft, and we'll cover, I guess, what's coming up that you can look forward to. So this week is your last chance to push for a bunch of reputations that you might not have until it goes away for a little while. The World Quest bonus event is going on, where reputation gains are increased from World Quest by 50%, and there's a quest to complete 10 World Quests, which gets you the 2,500 rep to a major faction of your choice, including Loam Niffen or Dream Wardens. But we're not going to see this again, obviously, before War Within comes out. So if you're someone who's like, ooh, I just wanted to finish up, Loam Niffen and get that final bit of renown done and with them, this is a great week to do that. Just get in there, plow through a bunch of reputation, and you'll reap the rewards of that 50% increase. We always highlight you could go back to Legion, you go back to BFA, you can get a lot of stuff from those too, because this is this event goes on worldwide as far as Azeroth goes, so you could certainly go and experience increased reputation gains from all those places as well. there were things you never got there. Even Shadowlands has some stuff that if you were like, I never got this, different form for when I'm actually, doing my critter forms or whatnot because of reputation gain, you can go back and gain some of that stuff too. So yeah, there's lots of places you can go to get rep. But if you're, hey, I have a checklist for Dragonflight and I want to be sure I finish all of the renowns and haven't done that yet, here's a great week for you to dive in and take advantage of that.
True. Another thing too is, this is not going to matter in probably 2 weeks, but if it applies to you somehow, like all this stuff does become bind on account once you have a rep renown maxed. So like you can go do this and get your free 2500 rep is a whole renown level, right? It's a whole rank. So you go do this on characters that are maxed out and funnel them to characters that aren't, if there's particular rewards you're looking for or whatever, or, sometimes there's those renown ranks where you get to pick a pet or something, but you only get one and there's 3 of them on offer, and then you got to farm up some stuff to buy it, and that's kind of annoying. Just to throw that out there, it's an option you can do this week if you have some characters and some stuff you want to collect, you can kind of redistribute those rep tokens and get some more rewards from it. It's kind of nice. It does make me think, this is a conversation that I think we've had before, and I know I was talking to somebody about it last week, I think, and just while we were playing, like Paragon bags in Dragonflight stink.
Yes.
They're just really bad. And
Yep.
Paragon bags used to be such a cool addition to the game and like the outdoor sort of rotation that you were doing, because it gave you a lot of gold and a lot of relevant stuff, and they would stash like cool rewards in the bags too, like mounts or toys or whatever. The big benefit in Dragonflight is you have these account bound rep tokens at max, so you can redistribute stuff, right? So that sort of makes up for how bad the Paragon bags are. That's not really going to be on the table in War Within with warbands and everything, because you're kind of going to just do the rep once and then everybody on your account benefits from it. Be really great to see Paragon bags be cool again someday, because that was the thing I loved about Legion. You mentioned it. Yes, the bonus applies to Legion World Quest and everything. And man, there were so many cool things in those Paragon bags. And that was the first time we'd ever seen the system, right? When Legion came out. And after Warlords, I was desperate for stuff to do in the outdoor world.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, this just goes hand in hand perfectly. And it just they've slowly but surely like clawed Paragon bags back, and they've, at this point, it's like, oh, I got a Paragon bag. Oh yeah, I guess I should remember to open that at some point.
Yeah, the disappointing thing that happened between Legion and now is they clawed a lot of stuff back. Like even to me, the mission table was at its peak in Legion when it came to the type of rewards you got. You get 4,000 gold for doing a mission back then. You could get raid loot for doing a mission. There were all sorts of things that you could do that were really interesting during Legion that I agree with you. I think they've just been clawing back that feeling of reward is what it's felt like to me when it comes to a lot of these systems. And Paragon Bag is one of them. They got rid of the mission table entirely after it just flopped on its face during Shadowlands because they did a really bad iteration of it. It's unfortunate. Like, these sorts of things could have been much easier to sort of manage and be a consistent type of way to reward players who just want to, have like a base or have like an area that they are able to send people out from, or able to actually earn these sorts of reputations and be rewarded for it. And yeah, they've just been clawing it back. I don't know why. Maybe we'll see it get improved over the next 3 expansions, but yeah, I think in general, those sorts of rewards have just been toned down so much that it's not really exciting when you get a Paragon bag. It's like, yeah, whatever. All right, Paragon bag, next one. Sure, whatever. Like, it's not like, there's 15 mounts and 20 toys and another 10 pets and a whole bunch of currency and important resource that you can get from these Paragon bags. So earning one is like exciting, and you want to keep doing world quests regularly after you've hit, your max reputation, because you want to earn those Paragon bags over and over again. And there's a drive to do that just doesn't exist at the moment. I think that's unfortunate, because it's a reason to keep playing the game on a daily basis and reward players who do. So yeah.
Yeah, it felt good when you got a cool Paragon bag and then you got something cool out of it. But anyway, that's my semi-regular plea to, let's get some good Paragon bags back in. This is the perfect opportunity to do it for, with all this other stuff changing around how your account works. It's like you could kind of just play whatever character you want right on a given day and still be making progress towards the same bag, essentially.
Yep, exactly. All right, last hurrah is Emerald Dream. So if you're heading out to Emerald Dream and getting your Dream Surge Coalesce collected, you have your 50 bloom earned during Super Bloom, your Super Bloom completed as the event, and 3 Dream Seeds planted, and you'll get yourself your last hurrah for the week, reward-wise, which also means that Aurostor the Hibernator is the Awakened World Boss for the week, dropping that 499 eye level loot if that's something you're still trying to pick up, or that bear form is another thing you'll be able to find groups easily for the first little bit to kill Aurostar, so you can get yourself that cool bear form shapeshift if that's something you're looking for. Brawl for the week is South Shore versus Terran Mill. This is the 40 on 40 death match that takes place near South Shore and Terran Mill, obviously. And basically the Horde and Alliance just go head to head and smash into each other, and it's the sort of the nostalgia of the old days where these battles used to break out just an open world and would take place for hours at a time, with one side pushing the other side back to their graveyard and vice versa. And you could never actually like conquer an area and like claim an area of the map. But I feel like if you could, there would have been some pretty interesting... I almost wonder if Blizzard devs wish that they had an ability back then when they were designing the game in Classic to be like, yeah, actually, Horde now owns South Shore, so you lose the flight path that's in South Shore. You can no longer use that flight path anymore, and Horde now can. Right. And if that was actually like a legit thing that could happen, would have been an interesting situation to happen. Like, not on a global scale. You wouldn't want to see them like kicking everyone out of like from, you know, the southern part of one continent up to a northern part of it and be like, we own this continent now. That would not be a healthy thing for the game, but to have like 2 or 3 zones where that type of thing could happen and it would interrupt flight paths or interrupt something like that would be interesting to see.
Right, like those contested zones.
Yeah, that would have been interesting to see.
Yeah.
Not what this event is. This event is 40 on 40 deathmatch.
Yeah, this harkens back to, I mean, like you were saying, like pre-Battlegrounds WoW, right?
Yeah.
Like Battlegrounds were not a launch feature. That was a thing that came in later. And yeah, that's what we used to do for fun, was go to a place where you would be auto, PvP flagged if you're on a PvP server, and just go start trouble, basically. And this was a place that we did that. Man, the weirdest thing is that this was part of the 10th anniversary celebration in WoW, which was in 2014. So now it's been 10 years almost since this came into the game.
Right.
It was like, once upon a time, it was like, hey, look, this is like a fun nod to how the game was 10 years ago. And now it's been in the Brawl rotation for quite a few years. Yeah. That's a weird thing to think about. But the cool thing about this Brawl is there's like no technique, except don't get too deep. Right, yeah. Like just establish a line, stay with your buddies, try to pick off the other team. If you can get some death grips or something, pluck somebody and light them up. Ton of HKs if you need HKs for any particular achievement or anything like that. They're on offer here for sure, because it's just everybody's just dying constantly, basically. Right. Pretty fast games, and yeah, there's really nothing you need to know about what's going to happen when the battleground starts. Yeah. Just the 2 armies run at each other and you fight until one team loses on points, and that's that. So it's cool. I like this one. And yeah, there's those achievements around like just total number of HKs or like specific races or whatever, like, character races, all that stuff. Like, this is a good way to make some progress towards that without really having to think too hard about it.
Man, back in you made me think of the Warlords of Draenor days, Jason. How could you? Where you actually had the arena inside of your garrison, and the arena had quests for you to complete, and some of them were like, kill 50 goblins, and you're like, okay, I have to find 50 goblins out in the world or in at one of the battlegrounds to go out and defeat, and then I could actually turn in those trophies and get the next quest, and then sort of work your way through all of those.
Right.
Surprisingly, Robin was actually one who did all of that. She's like an arena master or whatever it is for that.
There were cool titles and stuff you got from that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was that was cool. I can't remember if I did all of it or not, but I definitely did a lot of it. I feel like there was one I didn't finish. I feel like there was one because I just couldn't find the race very frequently or something, but I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember now. But it's if there's a particular achievement you're working on or to kill a certain amount of a certain race, it's certainly a fast way to get a lot of HKs towards that sort of thing. All right, Mythic Plus affixes for the week are Fortified, Entangling, and Bolstering, where non-boss enemies have 20% more health and deal 30% increased damage. While in combat, Entangling Vines periodically appear and snare players, and when any non-boss enemy dies, its death cry empowers nearby allies, increasing their damage done by 20%. So this is a bit of a heftier trash week, although it's actually a great week for people who are doing keystones that don't have bolstering. If you're doing keystones that are low enough that you're not dealing with that third affix, Fortified Entangling is like as easy as you can get for something like this. You have, yes, heavier duty or trash. That just is what it is. You have to deal with Fortified. It's a bit of a slog. But Entangling is very simple to handle. I mean, you're either running away from where you get rooted, which snaps the root and you don't get stunned at the end of the duration of it, or you're using a Shapeshift or, Gnomish Escape, or you're using Hand of Freedom, or all the other variety things that are out there that help free you from this. So Entangling is not necessarily one of those things that you're going to need to worry about when it comes to an affix. So I like this week overall. Bolstering Fortified can be dangerous. You can have trash, if you are doing keystones that high, that are already doing 30% increased damage static, and then you're increasing that by 20% based off of how bolstered the mob gets with everything that's dying around it. You can have situations where your tank takes a hit that they weren't expecting because a mob got bolstered so quickly and then just like one attack happened, or that you're bolstering as something's casting a big spell and that spell then hits everybody or hits people and one-shots them because they got bolstered just before that thing went off. So if you are seeing mobs starting to get low on health, be sure that you're either starting to get those sort of stuns and whatnot out there to try and help CC those things while they die, or just be more cautious about what you're killing and when you're killing it and, deal with that. So bolstering will wear off if you are in a situation where you have a really big pull and there's like a giant mob chasing you and you can CC it and you don't want to like get near it because it's going to one-shot someone. You can just kind of lock it down until bolstering wears off and then kill it. That's absolutely an option as well.
Yeah, remember when it used to give it more health and it was like permanent until combat expired?
Oh yeah,
those were the days.
I remember the opening pull of was it Plague Vaults or whatever it was inside of Shadowlands, where they had the giant mass of oozes and slimes, and someone would run in and pull that entire room of oozes and slimes being used to like clean the whole thing up. And 2 or 3 of them would be alive, and you'd end up, or one of those like slime dudes on the side would get pulled too, who has way too much health, and he'd just become like the size of the instance, like he'd be ginormous and have like 19 million hit points and would one shot anything he touched. Yeah, that was a thing.
Yeah, luckily bolstering doesn't work like that anymore. Yep. No, overall, I think this is a great week. If you want to get a little preview of what War Within season 1 trash is going to feel like, then do some high keys and just damage everything and bolster it all up, and then you get that 30% plus 20% on top of per rank scaling.
Nice.
I mean, like there are going to be situations, if you push keys high. I haven't done any high keys this season. I've stopped at 11s, I think. Once you start getting up there, fortified bolstering can be a real problem. But for anybody doing any keys that give you like a tangible benefit or reward from doing, just for the sake of doing them, I don't think it's gonna be a problem. It's not gonna be too scary for, the plus 10 range, unless you're really under geared, and Entangling, plenty of counterplay there. There are situations where you want to stand in a particular spot or you want to get away from something, and then Entangling messes you up. And it will happen on bosses. It is easy boss week, but you will be dealing with Entangling spawning while you're fighting bosses. So there are some situations where you got to pay attention to that. But overall, there's plenty of counterplay. And, think of something like third boss in Azure Vault. It does that attack where the boss will fly to the middle of the room and then cast that big explosion, and you have to stand in one of the shields. If you get like Entangling in that, probably just stand in it, right? Unless you can snap it really quick. Like if the timing works out and you can snap it and get back in the shield, great. But if you got to pick between get out of the shield or take the stun, just take the stun and stand in the shield. It'll probably be okay. Sometimes you will have to make those kinds of decisions depending on how the timing lines up, but overall, this is a really good week, I think, for fort keys. Like if you're just doing vault keys, if you're doing +8s or whatever, just to get crests and to get vault choices and, trying to push anything, then it's like smooth sailing this week without bolstering for sure. So, pretty nice combo.
Yeah, I would say Entangling is one of those ones where it's nice to have someone from your group who has a way of releasing someone from those vines just assigned to the tank. So a Hand of Freedom always goes to the tank when Entangling goes out, or Tiger's Lust always goes to the tank when Entangling goes out, whatever it is, to just sort of be like, all right, we need to be able to do this big mechanic. When this big mechanic happens, regardless of the situation, just throw that on the tank to make sure that they can get to where they need to get to, and they're going to be okay and live, and everything's going to be fine and not get stunned. Because if they get stunned, it's usually worst case scenario. Secondary to the healer being stunned is be the thing right after that. So yeah, I think that's a good advice to give, is just, hey, assign one of these things to your tank just so that they can make sure that they're okay. And then you'll be okay. If you lose a DPS, hopefully you have a res, and that's just a thing. All right, Darkmoon Faire is currently live. It runs until this coming Saturday, so take advantage while you can. It's the 7th to the 13th, and this is where you can get yourself those last-minute profession skill ups if you're trying to complete something for the season. It's where you can get the bonus reputation and experience gain if that's something you're working on right now on a character. And that experience gain does, in fact, is additive to the 50% increase for World Quest. So getting both those buffs will help you out this week as far as that goes. The races are a good way to earn tickets and achievements. Those tickets can be spent for things like the dirigible. There's also pet battles is a great way to get some of that stuff too. There's pets and mounts and stuff down there some people might not have gotten yet from like defeating the rabbit or killing off Moonwolf. I think it's Moonwolf or Moonfang that's there. And then... oh, right, the Dance Dance. Can't forget about the Dance Dance stuff there if you're someone who wants to do some coordinated movements to try and get yourself a toy. I know Jason's done it already. You can get yourself that toy by doing some coordinated movements down at the Darkmoon Faire.
Yeah, you don't actually have to move your body, which is why I did it, because I could just sit there at my keyboard and push the buttons and then get the toy. So it's perfect. Yeah, they haven't added anything to DMF in a while, but I mean, there's so much stuff there. And yeah, the XP bonus, I think a lot of people probably have like leveling tunes in mind right now as we're near the end. It's okay. Like it is similar to the Firefest bonus that I was saying didn't feel so great. Although I think the Darkmoon Faire one is all experience, so that's good for end of dungeon bonuses and everything like that. So that's nice, but it doesn't line up with like a time walking week or anything like that. So it's not like your mission this week to go get your top hats and max out on your XP buff. Like it's there if you want to do it. Don't forget about it, I guess. If you have a tune that you want to level up, go get your 10%. And yeah, I like the profession stuff. Like it is a part of how DMF works with Dragonflight, but man, we're so close to the finish line. It's like there's really no reason to even care about it. You pretty much missed the boat on anything you were going to do with a profession in Dragonflight that was going to benefit your tune, benefit your friends, or make you gold. Like it's kind of all over.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, pretty much. So, I mean, it's there if you want to do it, but it's not like, I mean, in about a month and a half, I'm going to be imploring you not to forget about your profession skill ups from Darkmoon Faire. But this week it doesn't really matter.
The beginning of September will be very important for everyone to go to Darkmoon Faire. That is absolutely correct. We're going to see that happen. All right. The Luminous Luminaries 5th annual micro holiday is taking place. We actually had to go back and look up when the first one happened, because Jason and I were like, I haven't done this in forever. I did it the first year it was out. I remember doing it. I did not remember particularly about what I did. You basically head out to the Abyssal Depths in Vashj'ir, and you interact with fish to sort of lure them back to a submarine that you're in. Now, if you're a druid, you can have your dolphin form or your walrus form or your cool fish form if you're someone who earned that, and sort of swim around and do the same interaction. But yeah, you head out with a submarine and you go down into the waters and you complete tasks there with all of these like luminescent creatures. At some point, like, you go deep enough that there's no light from above, and so all the like jellyfish and everything light up and are luminous around you. It's cool visually. I really dislike Vashj'ir as a zone. I still do. Like, I still have this thing about Vashj'ir, but it's just, especially since we had a water expansion that was a very well done water zone. So now Vashj'ir just kind of stands out as this like ugly eyesore for me even more, but it's a cool event. If you're someone who wants to see what they were doing graphically back then, if you're someone who's a fan at all of like underwater life and the sea creatures and that sort of thing, it's a pretty cool event. So be sure you go out and check out Luminous Luminaries. That's going to be on the 13th. So that is the Saturday. It's going to run through Saturday. So if you're someone who has no plans for the weekend or nothing big going on and you want to spend an hour of your time doing something kind of cool inside World of Warcraft, you can go to Vashj'ir and do the Luminous Luminaries event.
And you can get all of your transmog and stuff from the June and July trading posts because that's super thematically
you're
on
right.
point with this, you know? It's funny. Yeah, we were talking about like, man, I can't remember the last time I did this. And I think the only time I ever did it was when it was brand new, which was in patch 8.2, which like last week I was talking about how the July transmog rewards reminded me of the Najatar patch and all that. Like this also does that because I think this was new when Najatar was new. So I don't know. I'm in some recursive loop apparently with July of 2019, and so
I mean we all are. It's pre-COVID. That was the thing.
Yeah. That was the before times. But yeah, you know, if you've never done it before, I think it is worth checking out at least once. I mean, from what I remember, I thought it was like cool, but again, it's the blessing and the curse of the micro holiday is they're cool, they're fun, they have neat theming and everything, but once you've sort of had the experience, it's hard to really feel like there's any need to go do it again the next year that it rolls around. Like you're not going to walk out of this with anything tangible for your character that makes you go, yeah, can't wait till next year because then I'll do this again. You know, it's like it's cool to see it and see what it's like and what they did with it, but that's about what a micro holiday is.
Yeah. Now, hotfix wise, some people who are fishing enthusiasts on theme again with July in the month and what's going on this month will rejoice because some of the achievements got a bit easier. The achievement What's Down There now only requires 1 massive lunker, down from 2. The achievement for That's Not a Fish now requires 5 massive lunkers, down from 10. And the achievement for We're Going to Need a Bigger Harpoon now only requires 10 lunkers, down from 25. So if you're someone who is like, hey, I'm in theme on the fishing and I'm down for the fishing this month and I've got my diving transmog that I like that I've picked up from the trading post, this is certainly a way that you could use that, getting these achievements done if you have not already. So certainly go back and check that kind of stuff out. They also
I logged in the other night and I got
just got them all.
Whatever. What was the one? We're gonna need a bigger harpoon.
Yeah.
I guess I had done somewhere between 10 and 25. I hadn't done 25, but so I was like, well, I guess they changed something. But you know, this is where you get the conch shells and you throw them into the water, and then you like spawn the massive lunkers, and then they have stuff in them. And you need to do this a lot for the fishing dailies and all that. And when Dragonflight was new, I was doing this stuff pretty regularly to get a nice, you know, crop of cooking mats and everything set up for the beginning of the expansion, and I'm still eating the stuff that I cooked, you know, like a year and a half ago. I made like
check the 200
stacks.
That stuff.
Yeah. No, it's fine. They don't have duration on it. So remember, there used to be stuff like that had duration. But so I did a lot of this, but I guess I didn't quite hit the 25 back then. And so I was just like, I wasn't like doing this at the time. I just got the achievement. You know, that was funny.
Yeah. The character restoration services were temporarily unavailable. With warbands on the way and War Within, they sort of basically in preparation for this, they are making it so that they're taking down the character restoration services because it's going to mess up with the whole conversion rate stuff. So basically, in order to restore a deleted character, you used to log into World of Warcraft and go to Restore Character button, and that takes you to the screen. But now there's going to be a support article you can go and read, and they'll tell you more information about exactly how this is going to work. But for those who've restored a character previously, basically, if you need to do one now, do it before the pre-expansion goes live, because after that, it's going away for a period of time. So if you are like, hey,
and they don't specify how long, and they say like a few weeks, but that could mean when they don't put like a solid date on something in WoW speak, that could mean a lot of things. So just don't drag your feet. If you have a character that you deleted for some reason and you're like, oh, I'm on the fence, I kind of want this character in the warband, I want to play it again, whatever, just make sure that you have all that in hand, in
the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, you want all that done before pre-patch. So, because what you really don't want to have happen is for the expansion to come out and now you can't play this character you wanted to play and there's no end in sight.
Yeah.
A few weeks could mean we could be into, 2025 by the time they flip the switch back on. So just don't take any chances. If you have deleted characters in that pool, put the restoration in as soon as you possibly can if you have any compulsion to play them at all. If you have, you know what I mean? I might have to check myself because I haven't deleted a lot of characters over the years, but I should probably check because who knows? Maybe there's something in there that I want, and then I don't know. I don't want to have that moment of, oh, well, I guess I got to wait. Now I got to pay attention to when the announcement gets made that the Switch is getting flipped back on. You know, I'm glad they're letting us know this, and it probably makes sense for them to shut this off because warbands and all the new tech is going to wreak havoc on a lot of this data for a while. So it makes sense to, you know, just kind of have this stable environment with it, I guess. I'm
thrilled that they're not saying, hey, if you have a character you want to restore, do it now because we're going to lose all that data when we do this transition. That to me would be the like, ooh, unfortunate kind of circumstance that could happen when you're doing this kind of large migration and combination and upscaling of technology on an account like this. Is there could be a situation where it's like, hey, you know what? It's a lot easier for us in this transition to just not keep anything that was this old data behind, that then we'll have to find a way to restore a character, get that merged into their warband and brought up to the same, you know, status as everything else after this whole system goes live. And so my assumption is they have a way to do that, and that's great. What really comes down to is how much server load they're willing to sort of take and put on their systems. And they know that combining on accounts all these characters, these tens of millions of characters that are out there in World of Warcraft into warbands separately is going to be like a heavy duty task for their servers and what they're trying to actually handle. So that's why they're doing it in pre-patch first and foremost. And also something that they, I assume they know they'll want to leave alone for like a month before they even look at doing character restorations and how that's going to work, and making sure that doesn't make things messier or like wipe someone's account or something silly like that along the lines. Please restore this one deleted character. Unfortunately, we have deleted all of your characters. What? That's not what I paid for.
Right. Like you never really know how some of the stuff is going to go until it's up and running, and so it just makes sense. But you know, and I don't know how much this really applies to a lot of people. Like I don't have like a rotating cast of deleted tunes that I'm sort of like moving in and out of active character limbo for some reason. But you know, like I said, I got to check myself. Just got to make sure it's worth a look just to see what you got floating around out there in case, you know, there's something that you want to have ready for expansion.
Yeah, agreed. All right, the Warcraft short story Trials is now out. This one is a short story by Jonathan Maberry. So if you're someone who is interested in what's going on with these trials and younglings, we're going to have a link inside the show notes to this post. You can find the actual story there. The write-up they have for it is after several younglings are lost attempting their Umgora rites, Thrall begins questioning the value of the trials. The new generation places such emphasis on martial strength and battle prowess that they would risk death attempting their rites before they are ready. Walking through Orgrimmar with his family, Thrall reflects on his son's readiness for the trial. Ooh, so we actually get like a hint at what Thrall's son is like now. That's kind of exciting about all this. Cool to see that. All right, his coming of age and how to prepare this new generation to build on the legacy he and his friends started long ago. Yeah, so this is actually kind of neat. This is like a father and son story between Thrall and his little guy, and seeing what he's doing.
I can't remember what his kid's name.
I cannot remember his kid's name
as we're in the moment here.
I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to look that one up to sort of figure that one out. But yeah, it's I like this sort of story. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to sort of see what ends up happening down the line with, could this mean a change for the Horde or for the Orcs about what their rights are? And Thrall's a pretty big political figure, so is this something where like the young generation is going to create what the new version of this looks like, or what are we doing, man?
Yeah, you know, I mean, we've seen Thrall age, you know, over the years since they introduced him in War 3, and he's sort of becoming like, you know,
Durak.
an old orc now. Yeah, Durak, I think, is the older one, right? So that's, I assume, is the one. I haven't read this yet, but
yeah,
I do have exciting news regarding Warcraft publishing. I did finally sit down and plow my way through War of the Scaleborn. So I'm caught up on that, and so now I feel mentally prepared to read the short stories that they're releasing in advance of War Within. So that I'm going to do that this week probably. Right. So that's cool, and I think there might still be one more in the pipeline. They're publishing all this stuff in a hardcover volume in November, and there's looking at the cover there's probably one more that we haven't gotten yet, so that's pretty cool. I guess we'll see if that one comes out online in advance or if they're holding that back because they want people to play the game first. So we'll see where that ends up. But yeah, I mean, I think Thrall, obviously there was a period of time where everybody was kind of sick of Thrall. Yeah. I don't know if I would really include myself in that, but it's sort of a running joke, right? Like Thrall in some ways was a self-insert character for Metzen, people felt like, and he was just like so front and center in the game for so long, but he is a really cool character. And one of the characters really defines what Warcraft is as a setting and makes it different than other similar high fantasy settings, I feel like, so I'm glad that he's sort of more front and center in the story so far with War Within from what we've seen, the cinematic, and then getting a short story here. And if it's more of a situation where Thrall's involved in the story because his children are coming more of age and coming more into their own and being characters in the story. I mean, there's always been that kind of generational hook throughout Warcraft storyline as it's sort of evolved over the last 30 years, and so now is a time to take that other step. I mean, we see it with Anduin obviously, and Thrall's kids are maybe the next ones up. So
yeah,
I think it's cool, and the way that Warcraft is structured, it really allows you to be able to do that because you can introduce a character when they're a little kid, and then you sort of see little snippets of them in the game and in the publishing, and then the next expansion comes out, and okay, well, like, what's everybody's status quo now? Where does this character fit in? And you can tweak it a little bit, every time there's sort of a refresh.
Yeah, I definitely think that we're going to see almost a changing of the guard handoff between some of the characters that we've known for a long time and either new versions of them, like Anduin, moving into a different phase of his life, or almost a younger generation coming in a more prominent way. I think that makes sense to see that happen at some point. And if it means that Thrall goes into like backline dad mode and only comes out when he really needs to, and Anduin is a little bit more on the front lines, but has to reserve himself because he's so screwed up as far as what he experienced went. I think we'll see that to a certain degree, like him trying to find his light and find his hope again. And Thrall being like, yep, I'm looking over and fostering the next generation of orcs. And, who knows what's going on with Jaina at this point, like it'll be interesting to see what they do with these characters over these next 3 expansions, and how we see in my opinion, a change in the guard kind of come in for some of these main characters, and see characters like Jaina, I would feel like, take more of a Medivh backline type of position, where they're sort of watching over and has an eye on things and mysterious, but isn't necessarily there and in the spotlight and front and center all of the time. So I could see things like that happen, and it'll be curious to see how it plays out. And short stories like this are a neat way to sort of get an idea of what the development team is thinking as far as where those stories are going. So I'm looking forward to reading through Trials and see what's going on with that. It's actually a lot longer than I thought it'd be. I popped it open and was like, oh, this is like more than 3 pages. This is like an actual short story.
Right.
It's like 10 to 15 pages. Cool. Good. Looking forward to that.
I think it's cool. I think doing it the way they've done this with sort of a bit meatier publishing for a bunch of different characters is pretty cool for a pre-expansion thing, because it lets you kind of just really get in the head of a couple specific characters to set the stage. And I mean, they've done stuff in all different ways to sort of promote a new expansion, right? They did like audio dramas. That was really cool. They've done comics and stuff like that. We've had sort of the pre-expansion novel that sets the whole stage sometimes. And I think that has worked kind of to varying degrees. Like some of them have been really good, some of them not as much. Doing it this way, I think putting the characters that you want the audience to know where they're at, like front and center before the expansion comes out, is really smart. And this is, I mean, they've done similar stuff to this in the past, obviously, but I think there's a reason it just works, and it's a good way to sort of see where all these characters' heads are at as we move into, the whole new setting.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so moving into a little bit of War Within, the actual beta itself that's out there, we know that Death Knights got themselves some hero talents. The Riders of Apocalypse and San Lane are now in, if that's something that you were interested in for your DKs. You
I
can
got some
get out
changes
there,
this week too. Yeah, like
and check some of that out.
we're not going to get into everything that changed because we can't express it in any way that makes sense. But there were, at this point in beta, there's like no new content coming in, right? Like we got raid testing going on, the dungeons are in, all the features are in, all the zones are in, the quests are in, everything's in. So it's about tweaking it. So what are they tweaking? They're tweaking hero talents. They're tweaking, class and spec talents. So that's all, and we're not in the business here of like getting into the nitty gritty week to week. Okay, this changed to this degree, but these are the things to look out for if you're in the testing realm.
Yeah, I mean the important thing about Sand Lane, for example, like we're not going to talk about. It doesn't mean anything to know that Icy Death's Torrent got buffed by 100% damage. Like that's just not relative to anything.
It means nothing to me. Yeah, yes, at this moment in time.
And it is neat to know that, like, for Sand Lane, the reason why I mentioned it as one of the specs to check out is they are capping some things at targets. So we know that some of the abilities, like the Blood of Life, now does reduce damage beyond 8 targets, right? So we're like, oh, okay, they're putting these sort of limitations in place to sort of see what this is going to feel like for people. So Icy Death is another one. Icy Death Torrent now also does lower damage beyond 8 targets. So they're kind of starting to put some caps in and rein things in a little bit. But yeah, if you look at the actual notes for this week, it's like Boundless Moonlight does 25% increased damage for Elun's Chosen inside the hero talents for druids. And you're like, that's cool, great. I don't know what that means because I don't know what anything's going to feel like.
We can't contextualize it, right?
Like we're wearing tier gear and PvP sets on characters that have picked up gems and enchants off of vendors, and we're doing heroic dungeon level content. And you're like, okay, this is hard to like quantify what the challenge is going to feel like and how much health stuff should have and what that's going to feel like. So I think that's once we start seeing raid testing and stuff come in, this will start making much more sense as to what we're seeing. So, hopefully that kicks off soon-ish for some of this content.
Yeah. It's just it's a tough time to really talk about nitty gritty with testing because what they're doing is, now they're in the stage of like tuning up, class and spec and now hero talent stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so whereas leading up to this process, we've sort of checked in, okay, this week this stuff got added to the build, there's some UI updates and there's, they're changing this and they're bringing this in and there's some other new feature to go test. They got to like lock this stuff in so they can ship it. So now it's getting more into these kind of more in the weeds, like number adjustments. But
yeah,
if you are invested in that kind of thing for you classes specs that you play, just keep an eye on that stuff if you want to sort of participate in that conversation. I have not, like in the past, I've sort of been more involved in it and kind of looking from build to build. Okay, what are they doing? I don't know how much I've ever really gotten out of that other than sort of upsetting myself usually if something that I liked in beta that I thought was cool went away. Yeah. So I've been a bit more hands off. I played the content a bit, and that's about it. I obviously I've messed around with hero talents and wanted to see how that felt, and I certainly like where they're going with the choices for prot, but I haven't been in there thinking about and absorbing the discussion around numbers tuning and all, and that's really like what we're going to see, I think, for the duration here. There's not going to be some surprise huge feature drop that's going to come in the beta, at this point in the process.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to point out a couple classes where there is something that is worth looking at if you're trying to plan ahead for the class that you currently play, because some of this comes in with obviously the PTR for pre-expansion notes as well. The classes like Shaman, for example, that are just getting a massive rework. Like if you play an Elemental Shaman or Restoration Shaman, you are seeing like a page and a half of notes that are just for you in that spec. And a lot of it's like Elemental got new talents. It got Fusion of Elements, Storm's Frenzy, Elemental Unity, Lightning Conduit, Everlasting Elements, Thunder Strike Ward, Earthen Rage, Echo of the Elements, First Ascendant, Preeminence is what that is. Fury of Storms, Primordial Fury, all got I guess Primordial Fury got redesigned, but all of those ones I listed before that are all brand new talents that they've sort of thrown into Elemental Shaman to be like, here's new things. Restoration got Tidewalker's First Ascendant and Preeminence as well, along with Reactive Warding. Those are all new. That's all like a totally new thing. Water, White Water, Spouting Spirits. So if you're like, hey, I play a Shaman and we're going to have a pre-patch that lands in 2 weeks, at some point in the next 2 weeks, and I'm essentially going to have a whole bunch of abilities disappear off my bar and start doing different things, and my talent points are going to reset, and I have to like build out my entire spec again. That's a thing. So if you want to go and look at what some of these talents do, that's important, knowing that you're going to get Refreshing Waters as a Restoration Shaman, and it means that your Healing Surge now is 25% more effective on you. That's kind of cool. Where does that fit into your build right now? I don't know, because it's totally fresh and new. So you can either poke around the PTR and find out, or you can just brace yourself for when pre-patch lands and know that you're going to be going through your talent trees again. So, yeah.
I mean, Shaman got basically I would say borderline huge rework, at least for Ellie and Resto. Yeah. And overall, I mean, like there's a lot of class changes too. And I mean, Sky Fury is a big deal. That was the big news of the week with the Shaman rework, was that...
Yeah, so before we talk about Sky Fury, we should mention the fact that Wind Fury Totem, Focused Insight, and Refreshing Waters were all removed from enhancement, which now made everyone panic because Wind Fury is gone. Now tell us what Sky Fury is.
So Sky Fury is hopefully like a better version of a thing that Wind Fury Totem was doing. And it was, like I said, it was sort of the big, exciting news of the week with the class reworks and stuff that came in. And Shaman seemed like it needed the most attention. Shaman players seemed quite unhappy. And everybody's always kind of unhappy about the state of their class, but it was obvious that Shaman needed a pass, and so it got a huge one. And one of the coolest things I think that they're doing, especially from a raid leader perspective, is Sky Fury, which is a new it's a raid buff that Shamans are getting. You grant a target ally 2% mastery and empower their auto attacks. Have a 20% chance to instantly strike again for 1 hour. If the target is in your party or raid, all affected party and raid members will be affected. So no more playing Tetris to build your Wind Fury Totem parties inside your raid, which is super nice, and everybody can just benefit from it.
Yeah, no more complaining person because they were left out of the Wind Fury group and they didn't get to, or person being like, hey, I really feel like we have to bring X many melee, because if we bring any more melee, then they're not in the Wind Fury group anyways. So there's no reason to bring that many melee. Like all that stuff goes out the window. It's now
which was all buff. Valid too, which was I think was the worst part about it, And like there are those situations where it's like, well, you're the 6th melee, and like these other players are going to benefit from it more, and then everybody just feels bad. It was weird that when Wind Fury came back in that way, it was kind of old school, which was cool, but it was a headache like back then, I think, and so Sky Fury seems cool. I like the idea here, and now you can just the fact that everybody can benefit from it. Plus, you get the 2% mastery. If you're not an auto attacker, hopefully you still like the mastery. I guess your evokers will probably like it. So yeah, that was a nice addition. But I mean, yeah, this is it is a little weird maybe having this degree of changes come in, especially for Elemental and Resto, like so close to new stuff coming out. But we have time, obviously, right, for people to get used to it and to figure it out, and for builds to emerge. Yeah, I mean, we have plenty of time, but and as we saw throughout Dragonflight, right, like just because they ship it, in the past it was always, well, we know that Spec X is not in a great place, but we really don't feel like interstitial patches during expansions are the time to do huge class reworks. That used to be the old philosophy. And so what it ended up being was like specs would just be dead for an entire expansion.
Or they'd be dead for 2 patches, and then suddenly they'd be really, really good in the last couple patches, and then like it's like at that point everyone had moved on and done something else and weren't playing that class anymore, right? Like it's unfortunate when you run into those situations. So yes, no, I'm very happy to see this.
But they like 180'd on that, like they 180'd on that philosophy hard in Dragonflight. Because I mean, how many reworks did we see to specs like just in like .5 patches and stuff, and we saw entire new specs being introduced. We saw massive reworks to like I remember the Ret Paladin rework specifically is the one that my crew was super excited about. So I think that's just where they're at now. It's like if something needs the attention and they have something to, some approach to it, then they're just going to do it. And so it doesn't mean that, okay, well, 11.0 came out and the spec was built like this, and so that's it. See you in 12.0.
Yeah.
It's just a different mindset, I think, that we sort of have to get used to, is that they might just rework a class in a .5 or a .7 patch. We never really had that before, but big shaman rework on PTR now, and Skyfury sounds like a really nice addition to to make your raid leader's life a little bit easier, which I certainly appreciate. So check that out, shaman players. And there's a bunch of other class changes up on PTR. I guess the cool thing about the way they're doing hero talents, this is what kind of struck me as I was going through this stuff this week, is like hero talents are just sort of cordoned off until expansion, right? So like in the past, it was sort of like, okay, we're going to mess with a lot of talents, but you might not have access to them until you're actually max level. So the data's in there, but you can't really see any impact of it. Yes, you're not going to have your hero talents if you log into PTR or when pre-patch goes live, but all of the spec and class trees that are getting all these big reworks and redesigns, that you can go play with right away. And it's a lot more robust, I guess is what I'm trying to say, in terms of like the pre-expansion class play testing than you could do before.
Yeah. I would remind everyone what it was like going into pre-patch for Mists of Pandaria, even beta for Mists of Pandaria. Like, you're coming out of Cataclysm. Cataclysm is where the old tree died as far as talent trees go. And they introduced glyphs, so there's a whole glyph system inside, Cataclysm. That was kind of their big twist that let people play around with their class in a bit of a different way. And there were some other things they did. But going from Cataclysm to Mists of Pandaria was when we went from the, hey, here's a ton of talents inside a talent tree that you fill out, to, all right, you get 3 choices every 15 levels up to 90. And so you have 6 choices of talents that affect your class, essentially, right? And choose them. And you're like, okay, so an entire class was like, your talent tree is 6 different bars, and you just clicked of one of the 3 options on those things, and then you were done. So to me, it's neat to see us essentially now, obviously in Dragonflight, go back to that big, broader, larger tree, but also go, all right, we're introducing something new going into War Within, and it's going to be this self-contained, smaller system that isn't going to affect your decisions immediately for your class. Obviously, Shaman being an exception, where they're obviously going to have to reset a bunch of stuff. And I'm sure a few other classes have enough talent changes that we'll see a reset on what you're kind of putting your build together for. But when it comes to it, where you're still going to roll, a lot of classes or specs are still going to roll into pre-patch existing the way they currently exist and feeling good the way they currently feel, and not even worrying about those hero talents until the expansion hits and you start getting those choices as you actually level up, which will be nice. I think that'll be a great option for people.
Yeah, it's just cool because, obviously stuff is missing. If you log into PTR, you're not seeing your max level character, but I just feel like it's a better look at sort of your overall class, from a high level view of what everything looks like, because you can spec out.
Oh, I just lost you, Jason. There you go.
I muted myself.
Back out.
You could spec out that entire tree in a way that before you might have been kind of, looking from the outside looking in at like, oh, I can't wait till I get these pieces. Obviously, you still have that with the hero talents, but they're totally self-contained and there's no choices there. You're not really, like, there are a couple choice nodes, right? But like your hero talents, you're just going to have them all and you can change them whenever you want. You're not locked in anything. There's no cost to switch them. If you need this talent for this build or this situation, then you just activate that, right? So they're very situational in a way that like an overall talent build maybe isn't as much. Right. So I think it's a cool opportunity because of the way that the stuff is more modular. So I think it makes it more interesting to test from like a PTR perspective.
For sure. All right, folks, with that, we want to take a moment to thank our patrons. They contribute a ton to our show and help us to improve on the content we create. The past couple of weeks past few weeks, we've had huge episodes. So we actually have a lighter one this week, which is nice, but we still do them every week regardless of that. And we find ways to inform you about what's going on. And a lot of that comes down to our patrons. So thank you very much to all of our patrons. I'm giving a special shout out today to Alianas, Arajian, James, Kapawi, Max, Pinky, Shorel, and Rager. Thank you so much for all that you give towards the show. And everyone, all of our patrons, past and present, how much you give towards the show. It has meant a lot. It helps keep us on schedule, show running, getting those episodes out there, and it keeps everything running. So thank you so much for that. Big shout out to our newest patron, Luke. Thank you, Luke, for hopping in and supporting the show. Means a lot. And if you're trying to find our Patreon, it's patreon.com/thestartingzone, and you can hop in there and support the show and keep the thing running. So thank you so much to all our patrons.
Absolutely. Welcome aboard, Luke. Thank you for supporting the show, and thank you to all patrons, past and present, for supporting what we do around here. It means a lot, and yeah, it does keeps the show in production, keeps the archives online, and all that stuff. We couldn't do without you, so thank you so much for chipping in and supporting what we do around here.
Yeah. All right. Another great way to support the show is leaving us those 5-star reviews. And if you've enjoyed this episode, you can head on over to iTunes, your Apple Podcast, and leave us those 5 stars. They do help us out no matter where you are. You're able to sort of help us raise up the charts and get better ratings, and more people find the show, and then they comment on the show. And we love reading them here too. This is one that comes in from Blurg in the USA. Great name. Entitled Informative, Helpful, and Friendly. It says, been listening since BFA. Expect Shadowlands because I happily skipped the entire X-Pack. Fair enough. I understand that. And this show never fails to make my week better. Spencer and Jason's advice is effective for every kind of player, from the first day casual to the 19-year raiders. It always helps me figure out what activities are available and how I should spend my time, depending on both what rewards I want and how much time I have. This show has probably saved me more time than Wowhead at this point. Thanks for making this overly complicated game more approachable. Loktar Ogar. Yes. Thank you so much, Blurg, for writing in. And I'm so glad that we are helping you out on a weekly basis with figuring out what you need to know about World of Warcraft and where you need to go with your game time. And I will continue to advocate that Blizzard should respect and push for making content for those of us who, have limited time to play the game. We're not all able to be on every single day for every hour of the day doing stuff. So I am glad that we're helping you find the track that you want to be on to get the stuff done that you want to do. And I hope you're excited for the new expansion. Thank you for the new review. That 5-star helps us out quite a bit. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, the Blurg, for writing in, and it's great to hear from you, and glad to know that we could help you out. I mean, it's it's one of our main goals with the show. It's what we want to do. We want to kind of give you a roadmap for how to spend your time in game for the week or whatever. And at certain points in time in the game, that's more or less complicated. I think right now, if you're coming in fresh and you're trying to get your feet wet with Dragonflight to just sort of take a lap before it's time to move on, it must be really difficult to untangle, because there's just so much stuff that, it was great. Like, if you were following along and logging in every week and doing all the stuff as it came out, they gave us so much to do. But if your goal now is just to get ready for War Within, that could be kind of tough. It's tough to figure out even how to approach that, or what anything even means. And we do our best to sort of provide a roadmap to that stuff. But I think, with where we're at right now, if you're a brand new account, or if you're coming back after a long absence and you're logging in and you're getting sent to Dragon Isles, and you get to Valdrakken for the first time, or you hit max level and then you step outside. Your whole map and UI just explodes with all kinds of different, stuff they're pointing you at, which was spread out over a year and a half of content releases. And it is, I think War Within is going to be better for that. And I think having the focus on single player end game potential, with Delve, should make it really, you have sort of a baseline of okay, I know I want to do this stuff on this character this week, and I think the game really needs that. I think it's a nice direction shift from sort of where we've come from. I mean, Dragonflight's been a great ride, I think, but so some of the stuff sounds good on paper, or when you're messing around with it, designing it, and then once it's kind of out in the wild, it sort of takes on a life of its own. And I think some of that stuff happened with the, hey, every 2-3 months, let's add a new feature for them to go play with
without phasing anything out.
Yeah, that's cool until it isn't, and I think we're probably going to see less of that going forward.
Yeah, I'm hoping there's a more clear track for what players can sort of align themselves with for what they want to achieve, right? That's what I'm hoping with for War Within, is that you're okay, well, there's still a lot of paths you can go. There's still a very fluid open world concept kind of game that you can run around in for World of Warcraft, but if what you want to do is X, here's the track that you get on to get towards X. And there's a lot less distracting, shiny things blinking in your face that can pull you off that course without you knowing you've drifted off that course, like there is inside Dragonflight. Like, oh, I hit max level and I went out and did this particular event on the map and I got this gear, and that's cool and great. This is all upgrades. This is perfect. And then I went and did this other event and got gear that was 50 item levels better. What was the point of me spending the time doing the first thing? Why is that still here? What's going on?
Right.
Like that being the situation that currently exists in Dragonflight.
Like, ideally it should be fun to do it, but like, yeah. the rewards are so all over the place that it can be kind of hard to unpack, and hopefully we don't end up down that road.
Yeah.
Also, you do have the sort of the issue with season 4 is that other stuff they want everything to have its like week of relevance, and then you go back and do old stuff. But like, some of the stuff rewards you current gear, and then some of it rewards gear from 2 seasons ago because that you just picked up a quest because you saw it when you're out there. And it's I mean, in some ways it's like, well, it's inevitable because you want to just provide stuff for the everyday player to do that's fun and cool and that feels like it's a good value for their money and time. But then, you also have the cyclical nature of a lot of the player base where it's like, I don't know what to do now. What is important here?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, with that, that's going to wrap up episode 639 of The Starting Zone. If you'd like to check out show notes for this episode or leave us a comment on the show, you can reach out to us at thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. You can also email us at thestartingzone@gmail.com, or reach out to us on Twitter at The Starting Zone, or you can join our Discord, thestartingzone.com/Discord, and you can hop in there. We also have a merch store. You can head over to TeePublic, that's teepublic.com/stores/The Starting Zone, and check out all the designs and shirts and mugs and stickers and all that kind of fun stuff. And Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
Best place to find me, as always, is over on Twitter. You can find me over there at Shieldwald. You can also find me over on Blue Sky, just Jay Lucas over there. I haven't been posting over there like at all, but I do read it and I keep up with it, and maybe someday I'll actually post some stuff on it. So you come say hi over there too. You can find video stuff at twitch.tv/Shieldwald and youtube.com/Shieldwald. Streams have been pretty quiet, although I did stream some remix of some other stuff the other night, which was fun, just sort of getting back in the swing of things. So check out the video channels, give them a follow, and I'll have more stuff up there as we get closer to expansion than once expansion is out. And yeah, come say hi.
Yeah. If you're trying to find me, you can find me over on Twitter at Spencer_Downey, over on Blue Sky at SpencerHD, or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD, and youtube.com/@SpencerHD. And with that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening, and jobs done.